What's going on YouTube? Back with another video today. In today's video, we're going to be making some more progress on the TVS swap on the Lightning. We have some stuff we're going to start assembling and putting back together. So in our last video, we left off with the intake manifold being installed, and that's pretty much where we're still at. I've only done a couple little things without you guys. Basically installed the alternator back on the alternator bracket and mounted that all up. It's ready to go. I did have to custom make some spacers. Let's see if I can get the camera in there so you can see. For where the alternator mounts to the bracket, you can see the round stock I put in there. Basically, because the manifold is up on spacers, the phenolic spacers underneath the manifold, I had to make spacers that are the same height to mount it to the alternator bracket. You can see it there kinda. And that just spaces the alternator back down the same amount as the spacers on the intake manifold, so it's where it's supposed to be again. Because if I didn't do that, the alternator would obviously be further up than it's supposed to, the belt wouldn't fit, it wouldn't be able to mount to the bottom points. So I made some little spacers, got that mounted the way it's supposed to. Pretty simple. The only other thing I really did without you guys is I connected the coolant crossover where it's supposed to go. That way that's all sealed up. Wanted to get everything hooked back up with that. It was pretty simple. And I wrapped my intercooler lines. I've always had some of this wrap on there, but I never had enough to do the entire lines. So I bought some more of this. It's basically a heat shielding sleeve, and it protects the hoses from radiant heat. So it basically insulates them from the heat of the engine bay. And I don't know if that'll make a big difference or not, but every little bit helps. So the thought is basically to keep the intercooler hoses from getting heated up by the engine bay heat, keeping our intercooler coolant cooler, thus being able to cool the intake temperatures more. Don't know, like I said, whether that makes a real big difference or not. I've seen people use like the stuff you put around air conditioner lines. It's like the real thick foam stuff, but this should work pretty good too. It's good for up to 2000 degrees radiant heat, and it stops 95% of it. It's also good for 500 degrees direct heat. And since I got the Hose Hustler hoses, these are really nice. It hides your intercooler lines. It runs right down underneath the AC accumulator and up into the intercooler. Nice and stealthy. Gets rid of the hard lines that are normally right here in the engine bay. Clears up a lot of room. Love these hoses, but it does kind of run close to the headers down there. You probably can't see because it's super dark down there, but your headers run right here and the intercooler lines are right there. So it's, I don't know, maybe 4 inches away from the headers, and I didn't want the radiant heat from the headers to heat up the intercooler lines. So I picked this stuff up from Mishimoto. It's pretty cool stuff. It's basically Velcro down the middle, so you can wrap it right around the hoses if they're already installed. I mean, it's an absolute pain in the butt to do it that way. I have done it though. I took them out for this. I mean, may as well, since it's all apart, just took them out, wrapped them up, and install them back, and that should make a little bit of a difference just to keep some heat out of the intercooler system, keep my fluid nice and cool. I did buy some stuff that I'm going to wrap the tank in as well. That's going to be in another video, another project that's later down the road. I want to get most of this together first, and then we'll worry about the little odds and ends. I just did that because I was bored one day and I was like, let's go ahead and wrap the lines real quick. So I did that, did the alternator, and that's pretty much all I've done without you guys. Today's video, I picked up an endoscope, basically a borescope, for super cheap on Amazon, because before I start assembling this thing, I want to peel this tape up and stick the endoscope down the runners and just make sure that my intake manifold is lined up really good. See if I can see any edges or anything, you know, just see what I can see, and to make sure it's lined up, because I had to grind the tabs off the top of my gasket. If you guys watched my last video, you see that, and those are the alignment tabs. And to line this up, I basically did it by eye, just kind of looked at it, and I just want to double check, make sure everything's lined up really nice. So I'm going to use this little endoscope here. This is actually pretty cool, and it was fairly cheap for the quality because I've already tested it out. It works pretty good. I think this is like 70 bucks on Amazon. It's pretty cool. We're gonna run that down some of the runners just to kind of see, like I said, make sure it's lined up, make sure there's no real big edges or misalignment that I can see. And if that's ready to go, then our next step will be we're gonna install our intercooler to the mid plate. Right now it's just kind of mocked up. I just bolted it there, but it's not really installed. We're taking it all back apart. I'll show you guys that process. We'll get this all installed to the mid plate, and we'll throw the mid plate onto the lower intake manifold. But first, I'm going to run this borescope down some runners and see what we can see. So I don't know how much you guys can see of that, but this thing actually works really good for how much I paid for it. Like I said, not sure what you guys can see, but the gasket is aligned pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. The imperfections you're seeing is probably more imperfections of the phenolic or the heads. That's aligned pretty damn good though. As you can see, the cinescope works pretty nice. It's actually got really nice quality. I'm sure the GoPro's not doing that any justice, because when you try to record a screen with a camera, you know, that never works out well. But yeah, so I checked all these and we are lined up pretty good. Like I said, this thing's actually pretty cool. I'll put a link in the description if anyone's interested in it, because the quality is actually really nice. For, I think I paid is $70 with shipping, tax, and everything out the door. So it's really cool. So we are all aligned. Turn that off. I checked multiple runners. There's a little bit of mismatch, but honestly, it's perfectly fine. It's sealed and it's good to go. So we're gonna call it good. I'll put this back in the runners for now until we're actually ready to drop the mid plate on there, just to keep gunk from getting in there. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and work on getting this intercooler mounted to this mid plate. Let me go ahead and flip it over. So for those of you that don't know, this is the JC Customs mid plate. Make sure you check out JC Customs. I'll put a link in the description. Use code Debtlife for 10% off. You will get 10% off everything on his site, and he makes some really cool stuff for our trucks. This is the mid plate he makes, and this is for the GT500 swap, obviously. And we're gonna mount our intercooler to it. I didn't have a gasket, and I didn't want to RTV it because you can see it has a built-in spacer, and you don't need the adapter when using his mid plate because he has the bolt pattern for the trick intercooler. Normally trick intercoolers, you have to have the adapter with the studs, and that basically allows it to bolt up to your stock mid plate. Well, JC has the threads put in right where you need to have them without the adapter. So no adapter needed. And that's going to raise the intercooler up off the floor of the turkey pan a little bit, provide a little more flow. So that's a good thing. But the thing is, you see how this is recessed in. When this intercooler is in there, you do not want to use RTV because you will never be able to get in there to pry at it. It'd be a nightmare. So I do not suggest RTV. Either use the stock style gaskets, or you can do like we did and make one. Basically I went up to Advanced Auto Parts or O'Reilly's or your local auto parts store, and they sell gasket material. This is the Felpro, I think it's the rubber fiber, and basically just cut out your gasket, cut it to shape, put all your holes in it and everything. You can see we did it and it fits pretty damn good. So we're gonna use this with a little bit of copper spray on both sides. The copper spray will just help fill any of the imperfections and provide a good sealing surface. Maybe not necessary. I don't really see a big deal if it didn't seal perfectly anyways. I mean, it's all contained in the intake anyways, so I don't even know if that'd be a big deal or not. But I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. Just put a light coat of this stuff on either side of the gasket, and then put this together. We have all new hardware. Probably don't have to, but we just decided to do it. I can't remember the exact thread. I'll put that in the description as well. I think it's M5 by 0.8. Not 100% sure. I bought those a while ago and just don't remember, quite honestly. And then you'll need some thread locker. A lot of people use red. I don't really know if I want to do that because I've seen posts about people using red, and those are the bolts that break. So we're going to use orange. Orange is basically in between red and blue. It's 3 times stronger than blue, but still removable with hand tools. So we're going to use orange thread locker for the bolts. Like I said, gasket with some copper spray, and we're going to get that mounted and torqued up. Now I'll come back to you guys. Alright guys, so you saw me do the copper spray and then laid the gasket down, put the intercooler on, and then put all these bolts in. I couldn't put this top one in for some reason. It kept wanting to go in super crooked, and I just didn't feel comfortable the way it was driving in. I mean, it was going in really crooked for some reason. All these other ones went in just fine. You can see I haven't got those two in all the way around, just this front one for some reason. So I don't know if something's wrong with the threads in the mid plate, or maybe it's just me. Maybe the gasket is just in the way and it's driving the screw in weird. I don't know, but it's not going in and it's not going to make a big difference. It's going to be just fine without it. Actually, when I ran the adapter plate on the stock mid plate, I didn't even use this one or these two screws. I just used the studs it came with and that was it. I guess you're supposed to put the stock screws back in there and I just never did, so it's not gonna make a big difference. I feel like this is sealed just fine. Yep, so you want to torque these down to 53 inch-pounds. I have my torque wrench right here. I wasn't able to get the socket on these two. You can see how it doesn't quite clear this wall, so I just did my best to tighten it up with this. Gotta be real careful because you can barely get it on there. Swivel socket might be better for that, but it's together. Everything has orange Loctite on it. We'll let that set up. You're supposed to let that cure for 24 hours, which would be fine because it's going to be sitting in the truck anyways while we're doing the rest of the stuff, so no big deal there. So copper sprayed the gasket, everything's torqued and Loctited. Now this is ready to go on the truck. So this is how it looks from the top. You can see it looks pretty good. We did open this up. You can see where it's now shiny, where I had to take the anodize off on the CNC machine. I machined this opening up a 1/2 inch bigger to match the trick intercooler. Now Joel does already offer that, but the one he sent us was for the stock intercooler, and I didn't want to just slap it on and lose the benefit of the wider trick intercooler. So what I did is, instead of contacting him and getting him to swap it out and all that stuff, didn't want to bother him, so I just went ahead and opened it up myself. Plus it was kind of fun just working on my own stuff. You can see how much I took off. This wall here basically used to be at an angle and now it's straight up and down. And yeah, now it's matched much better. You can see not much of it's covered up at all anymore. Just a little bit of this last row here is kind of still underneath, but I didn't want to go any wider and dig into this O-ring here. So, but like I said, I was able to open this up at 1/2 inch. That's going to make a huge difference. A 1/2 inch extra, basically 225 thousandths or so per side, and now that's much wider and matches the trick intercooler a lot nicer. Like I said, this was basically an opening for the stock intercooler. He does offer both. You just have to tell him beforehand which one you want so he can get you the appropriate one. Basically, he'll open this up himself on the machine before he sends it to you. So that's opened up all nice and ready to go. This is pretty much ready to bolt onto the truck, so I'm going to do a quick dry fit, and then we will be using Ultra Black RTV. Yep, I'm using RTV again. It won't be so bad this time. I don't know why I shut the hood. So we'll be using Ultra Black RTV again. It won't be that bad this time because there's only one connection point that we're going to be using RTV on, and that is the mid plate. The blower gets an O-ring here. You can see so that's just bolted down on an O-ring, and everything else is O-ringed and gasketed, so only one connection point of RTV will be easy to break free in the future because we're only having to pry up and get one connection point to break free. We won't have the same issue we just had, so I don't mind using RTV there, and then I don't have to chase down any vacuum leaks later on. So I've seen people with metal gaskets chasing vacuum leaks forever, end up putting RTV in either side, and then it goes away. So I'm just going to eliminate the metal gasket altogether, do a little layer of RTV, and put that on. Alright guys, so as you can see, it is in the truck. We did use some RTV, a very thin bead. I mean very thin bead. You can see not much is coming out from around the flanges at all. Basically went around the inside pattern and just a little bit around the bolts, not much. It doesn't really need to be that crazy, but we're gonna let that sit for about an hour. You're supposed to just kind of finger tighten so the material starts to push out, and we do have some areas where it's starting to push out just a little bit, so that's perfect. We'll let it dry for an hour and then torque that down to spec. I believe you're supposed to start in the middle, jump around, work your way to the outside and do 18 inch-pounds, and then go back and do 33 foot-pounds. That's the specs for the stock blower to mid-plate. I'm not sure if it's the same for the JC mid-plate. That's just what we're gonna go with and see how that works out. I don't see it being a problem. And then we can start putting, I might put the blower on there and just kind of start test fitting and seeing where we're gonna have to work the firewall. Now, instead of working the firewall in like most do with a bottle jack, I might actually just cut a little slit and cut it out. A buddy of mine did this swap, and that's what he did, and it came out really clean. He had no issues with water intrusion. So I'm thinking that's what we're gonna do, but we'll see when we get there. For now, I'm super happy that we got this in. It's looking like it's coming together finally. I'm probably gonna tape this up on the top so nothing gets in there. For now, it's nice and sealed up, and we'll see where we go from here. All right, so we got this all sealed up. Basically, we just laid some rags on top of the intercooler and covered that all up nice with some shop rags. And then we put a piece of cardboard over and taped up all the edges and laid a towel on top of that. So that should be nice and sealed. Went a little bit overboard with that, but I didn't want anything getting in there. So that's nice and sealed up. Like I said, rags, piece of cardboard with tape around all the edges, so that's sealed. And then laid a towel on top of that to keep everything down. We also stuck some shop towels in the holes where the injectors go, because I didn't want anything to get in there and have that exposed. We sent our injectors off to be cleaned and flow tested, and he's going to give us some progress videos of before, after, all that stuff, and I'll make sure to put those in the video whenever those are done. So that's all sealed up. We put rags in all those holes. I ordered a new spark plug gapper because I'm going to do a fresh set of plugs. I have them sitting right up there. You can see all 8. I'm running the BR7 EFs, and these are 2 ranges colder than stock, but that's what's recommended when you push your blower really hard. Of course, get with your tuner about anything plug related, but that's what I like to run. I ran those on my Eaton combo as well when I was spinning it hard. And then we'll put our Motorcraft coils back on. That way that's sealed up. I mean, the old plugs are still in there, so we're still good. Nothing can get in there. Yeah, this is pretty much where we're gonna leave it for today. In the very next video, we are gonna be working on the more specific stuff to this swap, such as clearancing the firewall. We gotta get this firewall clearance so the blower will fit. You'll have to extend your IAC and TPS wires, and we'll get to that and all that good stuff. So a lot to come, guys, a lot more to come, but we are making some really good progress. So that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. Make sure you drop a thumbs up on the video, like all the videos you're watching, really helps them out on YouTube. Leave a comment down below, let me know what you think of the build so far and our progress. Also, don't be afraid to call me out on stuff I'm doing wrong, or maybe I missed. Help me out if I missed something, if I overlooked something, maybe you didn't tighten down a bolt or something. Say, hey, you didn't tighten down that bolt right there, or whatever. Help me out. We're all in this together, and I am human. I can miss stuff, I can make mistakes, I can say things wrong. So let me know down below. Help me out. This is our content, and if you guys are helping me out and keeping me in check and all that stuff, it just makes the content better for everybody. So don't be afraid to do that, guys. I know I've said some wrong stuff in a previous video, and I addressed that in the pinned comment, so I did fix it. I realized it when I was editing. I said, man, why the heck did I even say that? I know better, but it happens. I mean, especially when you're filming and stuff, sometimes my mouth moves faster than my brain. But anyways, guys, stay tuned to the next video. Plenty more to come. We'll see you then.